Hosting the Summer Olympic Games requires a $13 billion mega project on a fixed, unforgiving deadline. But the city we are looking at today does not exist. It is the setting of an advanced AI leadership simulation designed to test public policy professionals on their ability to navigate high-stakes urban development. This map displays New Chapel, a coastal city of 6 million. North are the affluent hillside suburbs. South is the industrial port. The Stadium District holds the sports infrastructure, while the West Side District is an isolated, low-income area. The objective given to students in the simulation is straightforward. They must successfully secure the Olympic bid. To do so, they have to push the proposal through a maze of local government hurdles, public referendums, and community opposition. The simulation is designed to teach the principle of fragmented authority. Fragmented authority is a governance structure where power is divided across multiple independent institutions, ensuring that no single leader or elite committee can command a megaproject into existence on their own. To understand the friction in this simulation, we have to look at the required capital budget. The project demands $13 billion, divided across venue upgrades, a massive Olympic village, transit expansion, and security infrastructure. The organizers project significant long-term gains. They estimate the Games will generate up to $22 billion in direct and indirect revenue, create over 75,000 construction jobs, and trigger a permanent surge in regional tourism. But the funding structure is dangerously unbalanced. The budget relies on $10 billion of public funding, backed by only $3 billion in private commitments. That $10 billion public burden requires issuing municipal bonds and securing highly competitive state and federal infrastructure grants. The $3 billion private side is entirely dependent on corporate sponsorships, naming rights, and capital from a consortium of local high-tech executives and sports franchise owners. This creates a condition of asymmetric risk. The public sector absorbs the immediate, catastrophic financial danger if costs overrun, while the private consortium captures the theoretical economic upside and brand elevation. The ad hoc committee, the group of tech and business elites pushing this bid, holds no formal statutory authority. They cannot legally authorize the issuance of municipal debt. To unlock that $10 billion, the committee has to secure formal funding authorization from the City Council. They also have to survive a mandatory public referendum, convincing skeptical taxpayers to underwrite the debt. Without rigorous, independent financial oversight and total transparency, this mathematical imbalance guarantees public resistance, which will kill the proposal before a single shovel hits the dirt. The financial ledger is only half the problem. The physical infrastructure requirements introduce an entirely different set of constraints on the ground. This visual illustrates the proposed upgrades to the Stadium District. Because the baseball stadium and waterfront commercial grids already exist, converting these facilities for the Games requires relatively simple operational upgrades. The severe physical hurdle for the bid lies in the construction of the Olympic Village. This image reveals the current state of the designated site. To build the village, the city plans to demolish several blocks of the West Side District, a densely woven community of low-income housing and local retail. This is the proposed transformation of that exact same area. The tight residential blocks are replaced by massive Olympic housing towers, wide pedestrian avenues, and a centralized metro station. The bid includes a post-Games conversion plan. Once the Olympics conclude, these towers are slated to become 8,000 to 10,000 units of permanent affordable housing, anchored by a new community health clinic. Here we see the required transit infrastructure, a $2.5 billion light rail expansion. This specifically connects the newly rebuilt West Side to the downtown core and the Stadium District. These long-term regional upgrades carry an immediate, severe cost. Constructing the village requires wholesale demolition of existing homes and displacement of a marginalized community. The initial proposal completely omits mandatory mitigation plans. There are no relocation stipends, no temporary housing vouchers, and no right of return guarantees for the displaced residents. Urban planners call this a displacement paradox. the reality that achieving generational urban modernization often requires inflicting profound, immediate trauma on a city's most vulnerable residents. The AI simulation forces policy students to confront this paradox directly through stripped role-playing mechanics. Players are assigned to specific, narrow institutional avatars. You might play as the mayor, the tech CEO pushing the bid, or a community influencer representing the West Side residents. Every role is bound by strict limitations. No single player possesses the legal sovereignty to execute the bid or authorize the funding alone. The AI engine functions as a neutral referee. It does not advocate for any specific outcome. It strictly enforces the legal constraints and institutional boundaries of each role. The AI also controls all non-playable actors. Local media, state government officials, and disgruntled suburbanites will actively react to the decisions the players make. If the tech CEO ignores the community influencer's demands for a West Side relocation plan, the system generates a failure state. The influencer rallies the public, triggering a city council veto that instantly blocks the funding path. The only viable path forward requires initiating negotiations. The CEO must compromise, guarantee the mitigation plans, and build a multi-node coalition that satisfies the demands of the displaced community. The simulation demonstrates that an objectively sound financial policy will always fail in execution if leaders cannot align competing human interests and rigid institutional rules. When we look at the theoretical, completed vision of a $13 billion Olympic bid, physical structures represent only a fraction of the achievement. The financial models, the venue blueprints, and the transit engineering are the easiest variables to solve. The true friction in urban development is always human. It is the constant tension between elite economic ambition and the urgent need to protect vulnerable communities from being erased by progress. Overcoming that friction requires leaders to completely abandon the illusion of unilateral executive control. Success relies on a specific toolkit: radical financial transparency, legally binding mitigation planning, and continuous, exhaustive stakeholder negotiation. True civic leadership is not about commanding outcomes from the top down. It is the arduous work of engineering consensus across a complex landscape of fragmented authority.